Yeah, it's live. Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's 5:07. This is the open workshop for the Bayonne Board of Education. I'll take a roll call. Trustee Alonso was supposed to be virtual, and I don't hear an answer, so that's a nay. Trustee Broderick?
Present.
Trustee Burke?
Present.
Trustee Cassius?
Here.
Trustee Egan?
Here.
Trustee Finnerty?
She went to classes.
Okay, but she is here. Trustee Wilbeck is here, Vice President Munoz is here, and President Vallado is here. Trustees, all the resolutions were sent home in 3 different packets, so there are no resolutions that you haven't seen, except I handed out a package that's labeled D1, D2, D3, and D4. We had gone out for RFPs for legal services. So those are the only resolutions. They're in a separate package, not in your big pack, stapled together.
Dr. Mayor, where are they? You're right here.
There you go. That's okay.
Thank you.
So I leave it up to the board. If we're going to discuss the 4 items, depending on the questions involved, it'll either be outside in the open, or we will go inside for a closed session. So the board just needs to let me know what they'd like me to do. I'll give you a chance to look at the resolutions.
Are we discussing D1 first?
Well, I think the question would be the full package.
Okay,
If we're
so
gonna,
D1, D4.
if we're gonna have to break for executive session for one of them, I don't want to assume that we're gonna do it for all 4, but
Okay.
I'm just trying to get a gist of, are we out here or are we going into closed session? That's kind of what I'm looking for. Depends on your questions. So whoever would like to ask the first question, be my guest.
I'd like to go into closed session only because I don't know if the questions we're going to ask should be something that could be put down. Like, for example, I'm not seeing any money here. I'd like to assume that who's ever listed first has given the lowest bid. This is the first time I'm seeing it, and it's very difficult for me to decide, looking at something in under 5 minutes. I'd like to have a more in-depth conversation.
Michael, you're
perhaps
right.
decide. If you do this out here, I'm not, what makes you choose one firm over another? Why is one firm chosen? I'm telling you, this is like, I've never seen one like this. I've been on the board for 5 years. I've never seen anything like this in my experience. I guess because we never went after for this. I need this to be explained to me. The first person or the first firm that's listed, is that the one that we're hiring?
No, on this page, the 4, for example, D1, the 4 names you see there are the 4 firms that gave, that replied to the request for proposal. So we got 4 proposals. The firm that is being chosen is in the first line of the,
Okay,
now therefore be resolved.
okay. So that's for one law firm.
Yes.
Second page is for another law
Yep.
firm. Okay. And the third page is for another law
Yep.
firm. All right. Now, what I'm not seeing on this, however, is a rationale as to why these firms are hired. Is it strictly based
Okay.
upon the money?
So I
Or
wasn't the
experience?
chairman of the committee, so I was on the committee. We scored each firm in about 3 or 4 different, so, for example, you want to ask about money, the hourly rates, but also how they explain their hourly rate, their references, size of their firm, all the packets, we scored them. I assume that everybody on the committee scored them as well. They took all the numbers together, added the numbers up, whichever firm had the highest number, who we chose. So I can't, off the top of my head, I can't guarantee that McMahon, Scotland, and Bauman are the cheapest, but I can tell you from what I did is I ranked, when it came to the price, I ranked them essentially, when it was a line item for price, the cheapest ones got a higher score than the more expensive ones. I don't know how everybody else did it.
Well, what were the other criteria on the rubric?
Okay, so it was not only the hourly rate, but how it was explained. So who would be doing what work? It was, I think it was, and again, as a refresh my memory, it was a lot of stuff. It was their references, it was their availability, I think what else.
Well, can you have Dan, where's Dan?
Yeah.
Explain it because it's.
So a request for proposal is different than the bid process. The bid process is the lowest bidder gets awarded the contract. Request for proposal, you come up with a rubric, and you score each of those candidates, and then the one with the highest score wins. In a request for proposal, the business administrator and the board secretary are required to score. It is common practice that the board president and her, or his, whoever he selects out of the board, can score it as well. So that's exactly what we did in this process. Each one was scored differently. So for instance, bond counsel wasn't scored on the same criteria as general. Some of the things, like for general, was work experience. That was one. Price was another. Availability of personnel, because we're a large district. If you only have 2 or 3 counselors, then you're probably not going to be able to efficiently help us out. So each one had a percentage of, like, so 20% of experience, 20% for cost, and everyone scored that. And then the highest total was the firm you see in front of you.
Quite frankly, it would have been nice to know this before this whole process occurred. And receiving this 5 minutes, or even less than 5 minutes before the start of the workshop, I find a little bit disturbing. I'm sorry. And I knew that contracts, I did know contracts would be up by June 30th. I know. But we also had committee meetings on Thursday. None of this was brought to the attention of any of the individual committees, so we could have had a time to review, take a look at what's going on. And now you want me, everybody else also, but I'm sure the decisions that have already been made, you want me to look at this and then vote?
Well, that's the whole thing. So usually a recommendation is given either by the superintendent, assistant superintendent, or business administrator. This is not the case. So the committee that scored this is bringing that recommendation to the full board to vote. No decision has been made. So if the full board approves it, it moves forward. If they don't, it doesn't. It's just a recommendation.
Full board?
Full
Or a
board,
majority of the board?
majority.
Is this, the order of all of them, is this how they finished, as I'm going down the line?
It's not.
And is there any chance that we would see the scores at some point?
Certainly.
Which is more the reason, like, she's,
Certainly.
it says there, maybe we should go back into private, I don't know if we should be looking at scores out here. I don't even know who was on the committee, totally.
Absolutely.
Who were on the committee?
So it was myself, Mr. Maida.
Can you say?
Well, I can say myself and Mr. Maida because that's by law. we have to-
I was on committee.
Can't say
I'd like
No,
to see
he
the
wasn't
rubric
saying, he
too,
wasn't
Joe.
talking to us about who can't say. He was telling Gene
No, I was
that he
telling
can't
Gene
speak to
he
it.
can't.
Oh, okay,
Gene
I'm
can't
sorry. So the
speak.
committee was, the committee, go ahead.
It was myself, Mr. Maida, Ms. Villado, Mr. Munoz, and Mr. Eden.
Who is that? I'm sorry. One more
Can you
time.
see my smile?
Who
Smile,
is it?
I'm smiling.
You two?
Oh,
Maria?
why am I not smiling?
Listen,
I'd like to see the
I
rubric.
was asked by the
Yeah.
president to be on the
Maybe we
committee.
should go in the back
We
and
can go
let
back.
them look at the
That's why
rubrics.
I said before I present.
Oh, okay, then bring the rubric out.
Dan, you could bring the
we're
rubric,
getting our
the
tech.
one that you tallied.
Once we stop recording this, the link goes down. I mean, you can do it, but you'll just have to tell the viewers at home, it'll be a new link on the channel in 5 minutes.
I don't know if we've decided if we're.
No, I think we're doing it
Just
in
let me
public.
know before you stand on the floor.
No,
You just can't put a little sign on there that says "Will return" with like elevator music or something like that?
Okay, while we're waiting for the rubric, are there any other questions in regard to any of the other resolutions? Like I said, committee meetings were last Thursday, everything's been sent home.
I have a couple on community, you mean on the rest of the agenda,
If there's any questions for any of our administrators based on any of the resolutions that were sent home.
I have a couple.
Just let us know what number.
It was on page 49, but I don't know if the page nation has changed.
You've
And
got to
it's
give
the
me
redarn page.
you've got to give me a resolution number.
Good. Okay. I guess it would be the community ed one? I don't know. Let me see.
Community ed would be resolution C2. Under personnel, C2. Mr. Kopaz is here. There's a question from Mr. Kopaz.
It might not be specifically C2. This is the problem that I'm having a question. Mr. Kopaz.
On which resolution?
Okay, you can send it. There's nothing, I already spoke to him.
The hiring of
That could be
administrators, what resolution is that one? I don't know.
You're not gonna be brought up. I already spoke to him.
The administrative hiring. When I took notes, I secretly did not put down the number of the resolution. It would be,
We
It'd
do
be
have
C,
the
right?
community ed that would be for next school year, which is $22 an hour. We have our summer administrative, which would be July and August, which is $22 an hour. And then we also have our administrators approved for COVID-19, and all that entails for planning of opening up school, which would be 1/200th per hour.
All right, folks, we really can't have 3 conversations going on at the same time. So maybe we could take this outside.
this is my question, on the administrators, and I know I can't use names. And many of the administrators that are being hired, I count 9 administrators who are 12-monthers, okay? So my understanding is if you're a 12-month administrator, your job encompasses your summer hours. My question is, why are we offering 1/200th of their salary for certain other job responsibilities? Do those responsibilities, do they come under the present job description? Does it encompass? In other words, you're salaried for the year, but over the summer, there's extra bucks to be had here, extra bucks to be had there. I am not understanding that.
And so any 12-month employee that we have that's an administrator would be paid $22 per hour for any work that they do above and beyond their contracted hours, such as someone works at the ice rink. We have a director who is a 12-month employee who works every day from 8:30 to 3:30. If that person covers the ice rink from 4 to 10, they are paid $22 per hour. The administrators and the principals and admins who were on the 1/200th would be only 10-month employees, and that's what the resolution states. So any of those 12-month employees that you questioned, those are to be paid $22 per hour for any additional work above and beyond their contracted hours.
Okay, so, with that being said, Mr. Lopez, within that list, we have probably 20 to 30 teachers who are administrators, supervisors, they have certificates. Wouldn't it not be more prudent financially, maybe to go to those staff members who are not administrators and who do not have summer responsibilities? Wouldn't it be better to go to them first before we hit our administrators who are already committed during the day? I just see it as
Well,
almost like,
those employees who are 12-month admins would not be able to work for $22 an hour during their contracted hours. Again, these are hours that are above and beyond. And yes, you are correct. People who do have an admin cert who are teachers can work for $22 per hour if that is something that they're called upon to do. When you see the resolution, that is for the entire school year. So we list everyone who has an admin cert to be qualified and ready to work only as needed. So it's only as needed. Right now, we don't need any really admins because we don't have any of our buildings open. As we open up buildings, yes, we will have teachers and we will have admins. It's really a hybrid of both. But again, that work has to be done when those employees are not on or not working their contracted hours, whether it be a teacher or an admin.
all right, final question. Who oversees? Who's called in? How many hours he or she puts in? Who's the overseer of all this?
The superintendent.
The superintendent. Okay, thank you. Another question on the resolution. Thank you very much.
No problem.
It's page 44, number 14, the biodome. We no longer have it. Why is it in here?
Because
That is correct. We are just currently cleaning that out, and again, if the employee is working hours that above and beyond their contracted hours, they need to be compensated. As you know, we got Genesis, so those employees who were on that resolution were not on a resolution before, so to pay them, they needed to be on a resolution. So we do have 2 employees who are currently working to clean out the biodome, and you are correct that would be a task that would be completed.
Do we have a timeline on that?
This week, trustee.
Okay. You can tell I spent a couple of days reading the resolutions. I have another question regarding the hiring of coaches. We are, as you know, everybody in this room knows, we are like in a hold position. And we are hiring currently coaches for the fall, for the winter, for the spring. And unfortunately, this past spring, I know we couldn't do spring sports. We couldn't do a spring musical. We couldn't do many things. But my understanding, unless I'm wrong, is because we did hire these staff people for coaching and for spring musicals, whatever. They were paid because that's the agreement. We signed a resolution for that. My suggestion, just a suggestion, is that we hire. Of course, we have to hire the fall. I believe that football players are still, I mean, they can, as long as there's no contact and we can't share balls, unless, of course, we wear rubber gloves. I have that. But can we hire on a contingency? And let the coaches know, the winter sport coaches, the spring sport coaches, the winter programs, the people who are being paid additionally, can we make some kind of a contingency phrase that as long as it's occurring, you get paid? But if it's not occurring, then it shouldn't come out of our budget, because you're not doing, not through any fault of your own, but you're not doing what we hired you to do. And therefore, they should know. I know there's a school district, I can name it, I guess. It's called Springfield. No Springfield coach was paid for spring sports. However, in another district, I could tell you, like Nutley, yes, they were paid. We had AM people, PM people, none of those people were paid because we didn't have AM duties, we didn't have PM duties. Well, we didn't have school. I'm trying to think ahead here. This whole COVID-19 does present a huge and extremely complex problem, not only for educational purposes, but for finance. I don't see hiring someone now if we don't even know if that position is going to be able to be had. Are we going to have, and what do they do in winter? Swimming, basketball. Why are we paying a coach? Why are we committing to paying a coach? I suggest we put a contingency on hiring anyone who's involved in a winter, spring, extracurricular, be it sports, be it theater, be it whatever. Because nobody should be paid for a job that they cannot do, whether it's through their own fault or not. I don't see that.
We should get an answer on that.
I'm not getting an answer. It's a question. It's a suggestion. And I'm pretty sure my suggestion won't even be valued. But may I go on? One other question I have while we're on the topic. What happened to the AM and the PM aides? Did we encumber their salaries? Were their salaries encumbered? What happened to the money that we set aside for the AM monitors, the PM monitors, the lunch monitors? Where is that money? Did we encumber it anywhere for this past year from March, what was it? When did we close? March 13th?
March 13th.
March 13th. We no longer are paying them. So where's the money that we were supposed to pay them?
So those funds, any funds that were, sorry.
Yeah, it's good because I read lips.
All right. So any funds that were set aside for that time period, if we weren't going to have those services, those funds were unencumbered, which means taken out of there and then used for other services. For instance, some of the things that were purchased with that were the masks and the gloves and the cleaning supplies that were needed to clean the district thoroughly, amongst other things. Some of those programs that you're discussing are through Community Ed. And Community Ed is an enterprise fund where they base all of their expenses on revenue coming in from parents paying additional funds. So obviously those revenues weren't coming in, those expenses didn't go out, it was just a net neutral. So it kind of is different for each individual program, but certainly some of those encumbered funds were unencumbered and used for other things.
So I was under the impression that anything that was COVID related, which face masks and hand sanitizers would come out of the CARES Act money.
So some of it did, but those funds weren't even available till after June 19th.
Right.
And that's also good for a 3-year period.
Alrighty. Going on to the superintendent goals. Since we cannot do, one of the goals, Mr. Neese, was for you to increase the pre-K enrollment by 10%. How do you plan on doing that when we're still trying to figure out where we're going to find the room for the current student population we have without inviting another 30-some-odd little ones into the school district?
One moment, please. He's asking counsel. You could tell.
Yeah. If you're conflicted on voting for the superintendent related to a particular issue. If you're conflicted with voting for certain things with respect to the superintendent.
I'm just asking, I'm not voting, I'm just asking a question.
That's not even in the agenda.
I'm not allowed to even ask the superintendent a question.
It's not on the agenda today.
But it's not on the agenda for this.
If it's not on, okay. All right, moving on.
She's,
Those are,
I'm sorry, I didn't realize that I was not permitted to even ask a question regarding something that would in fact affect our entire district. I didn't know that. Moving on.
the goal may not be accomplished, just so you know.
I'm sorry, see, I can't even tell. I'm looking at you, and I'm thinking you, Dr. Devin.
Even though it's a goal, the goal may not be accomplished because of the unique pandemic we find ourselves in.
Yeah, it's,
You're right.
okay. All right. On Resolution C-55.
C5.
I wrote down
55.
C-55. 55. Do we have, and one would think that I would know this. Is there a policy or a regulation about having one's child work under your supervision? May I ask that question? I mean, I don't know.
Yes, we do. I could email it to you, but again, that employee would not be supervised directly by the parent or guardian.
Not directly,
They
but
would-
like,
yeah.
like me. It's like a sandwich thing. And the person who directs this person is under the direction of a person up here. So it does filter down. So I have a question about C-55 regarding that.
Yeah, so any employee who would have a parent or guardian or sibling who, as a supervisor, would report to a different supervisor for direct supervision, and obviously they would not be doing those evaluations or observations.
But how come I'm considered to be a conflicted trustee? Yeah. Anyway, C, I know, I'm sorry, I'm extending it. Too bad. C-48. I understand that is our, can I say like source for teachers? Am I allowed to say that without getting like shut up? Why isn't there an amount? You know how we have usually on resolutions not to exceed? This one seems to me like to be an open-ended check. And I understand we don't know how many teachers are going to be out. I understand that. That's like an unknown factor. But C-48 has no money. It doesn't say not to exceed.
So with ESS or Source for Teachers, same company. It's a contractual agreement where we are paying them either on a per diem or an hourly rate. There isn't a not to exceed in that
There's
amount.
no max on it.
There is no max on that. So we do decide when we get to call them up and say, you're gonna give us 6 subs or 5 subs or however many subs. So we control the quantity, but the total dollar figure, there isn't a not to exceed in that contractual agreement.
Okay, that makes sense to me, because I do remember, if not, was it last year? Didn't we even get like a reduction because we were using them so much or something?
Yes.
Okay.
So we did get reduced rates both per diem and hourly, and also also condense some of
It
the.
had changed. And I swear, last question. C-42. And the question for C-42 would also pertain to my problem with the 1/200th. We did discuss in committee our possible COVID plan, Mr. Neese?
Yes, ma'am.
And we would do a simulation and try to get people to come in and just see how it's physically going to work out, which I don't have a problem with that. My problem is the 1/200th, because various counselors, obviously, their annual income differ from one another. And I always take a look to see, okay, CARES Act money, I got it. It's not coming out of the Bayonne budget. It's a gift from the government, if you want to look at it that way. Am I right? But, you know, it's in a pocketbook, and we keep on withdrawing money from the pocketbook, and sooner or later, the pocketbook is going to be empty. Did anybody try to figure out, with the hiring of these guidance counselors at 1/200th of their salary, approximately how much of the CARES Act money would it cost?
So I can give you over the 3-year span, it's gonna be $36,000 for summer programming. That doesn't just include counselors though, that also includes teachers to catch up those students who have fallen behind and who need that social emotional support over the summertime. So as part of the CARES Act, you had to have a portion of your budget assigned to social emotional learning and summer school catch-up. So this meets that criteria, but the total dollar figure for that is $36,000. That's what.
Please don't misunderstand, I'm not questioning the necessity for that. And finally, and I mean finally, the grand plan with the, having the 30 teachers and the 6 security guards for this simulated classroom setup, hallway, all that stuff.
Right.
One, has it been posted?
No.
Okay, so at this point, again, to go back to, you can hire a teacher who might be making $100,000 a year, and you could be hiring a teacher who could be making $60,000 a year. Security guards, they don't really have, as you know better than I. How much money have you pocketbooked for that experiment? And I do believe you, how many days is it gonna be? It's 40 hours. I believe it's 40 hours.
Not to, it's probably going to be, again, we don't know what this will look like. We just received 104 pages from the Department of Education on the road to back to education. So taking into account that, doing our research and development this week, and then planning, I don't specifically know what that's going to look like, but I figure if I put this resolution to the board, so I have some sort of preparation for it, and then we can actually simulate what going back to school looks like in terms of coming in the building, being screened, going to a classroom, eating in the classroom, maybe coming out, walking, what is social distancing, how does that impact the education inside the classroom? There's so many components to this in terms of, just so everybody knows, there's a plexiglass shortage. So we have a lot of challenges. So if we can have a group of stakeholders come in, go through a simulation, understand what we are up against. We have a thermal imaging camera that we're using. We just learned tonight that when we use that thermal imaging camera outside, it changes the temperature of the human being walking in, so we've got to do it inside. That changes things a little bit. So this is a great idea to experiment with, and I would prefer to do it with just volunteers, but we know the world's an imperfect place and we have to offer some sort of compensation, and just in case there's an accident, a workplace incident, that we have to cover ourselves in terms of that. So I don't see the cost as being exorbitant. Perhaps a couple runs through during the day But this way it allows us to offer that to our employees, and then they'll come in and we'll get to do this. And then we can report out to the community, how did it go, and all the parameters and some of the obstacles and challenges that we have before us. So it's not gonna be like an everyday kind of thing, it's kind of a one-time, we're gonna do it, and we'll do it for maybe, we'll give it a couple runs.
Yeah, I see, it's for 40 hours, and that, again, I'm
No,
not.
we put that in, but it's not gonna be 40 hours, it's probably gonna be scaled down, because based on their,
What I read.
yeah,
Based upon that also,
right.
what was the rationale? I mean, we have teachers working over the summer who are using their pedagogical skills, who are using their experience as guidance counselors, being paid $20 and $22 an hour. What was the rationale of paying these teachers 1/200th of their salary? And they're not teaching.
Right.
I think our argument would be that, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, Joe, I need
I think the argument would be is that, generally speaking, we pay 1/200th for somebody to come in to do their job.
Correct.
If I was a vice principal and you needed a vice principal, I get 1/200th. If I need a teacher to teach, it's 1/200th. But I think we're saying they're doing something that isn't really there. So it could be a problem as to who gets it, who doesn't in the future, as opposed to, that's.
But there also has to be risk and reward, I mean, this is.
Well, I'm not saying I'd give them some, but we put a salary on a lot of
Right.
things, but I don't know, and then, once again, how would we select? So, but I think that's the problem.
Selecting the superintendent.
Well, we're gonna need people to do this.
Absolutely.
If the board doesn't want to do that, then I'm okay.
Oh, no, I think we have to do it.
Right.
I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, I'm just saying, I think we get into a problem as to what's 1/200th and what's not.
Right, that's my concern as well.
That's how I was trying to
Yeah,
level it down.
We need to get that, we need to have people in to come to do this, rather than paying someone, if I have the choice to do this or choice to, write curriculum, this is imperative to have some sort of plan to go forward with, for offering education next year, it's very important.
Summer recovery is imperative as well.
Any more questions? Anyone?
At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Can we please stand for a pledge to the flag? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For the record, this is a public meeting of the Bayonne Board of Education. It is 5:44. The 29th day of June, 2020. We're convening in the Anna J. Herbert Meeting Room. Presiding Officers, Maria Villado, President of the Bayonne Board of Education. Those in attendance include Mr. John J. Neese, Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Kenneth Kopaz, Assistant Superintendent for Personnel, Dr. Gary Maida, Board Secretary, Mr. Daniel Castle, School Business Administrator, Mr. Thomas Fagu Jr., Assistant School Business Administrator, Dr. Dennis Degnan, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, and Mr. Philip Lamparello, our Board Counsel. The meeting is open to the public. I will take a roll call. Trustee Alonso. Trustee Broderick.
Present.
Trustee Burke.
Present.
Trustee Cassius.
She's right out for me.
But she is here. Trustee Egan.
Here?
Trustee Finnerty.
Here.
Trustee Wilbeck. Vice President Munoz.
Here.
President Villado.
Here. For the record, adequate written advance notice of at least 48 hours giving the time, date, and location of this meeting with the agenda was provided as follows. 1, notice was promptly posted in City Hall at 630 Avenue C on the bulletin board reserved for such announcements of the Board of Education. The Board Secretary sent such notice to the Jersey Journal and Bayonne Community News. Notice was filed with the municipal clerk of the City of Bayonne, Melinda Medina, and number 4, posted to Bayonne Board of Ed website.
Just a reminder to the public, there are two portions of the meeting to be able to ask a question. The resolution portion of the business portion of the meeting, and at the very end, we have an open portion. We ask that you fill out an index card with your name and address. If you're a student, your school. If you do not fill out a card, you will be not recognized from the floor. So if you would like to fill out a card, if you haven't, be my guest. I'm going to start with approval of minutes and acceptance of communications. I've been asked by the Bayonne Public School Administrators Association to please read their letter into the record. The Bayonne Public School Administrators Association asks that you consider disciplinary action be taken against Bayonne Board of Education trustee Michael J. Alonzo due to his social media posting of offensive, insensitive, and profoundly vile comments. Trustee Alonzo's choice to post this information displays a clear lack of judgment, does not represent the Bayonne Board of Education, its faculty, staff, support personnel, as in direct contrast to the educational values and philosophy of our institution. As Bayonne Board of Education administration, we are disgusted by Trustee Alonzo's actions, ask that any and all actions be taken against Trustee Alonzo. There is no room in education for words and actions expounded and perpetrated by Trustee Alonzo. By allowing him to continue such behavior unchecked is unacceptable. Thank you for your consideration. Best regards, the Bayonne Public School Administration. There was a second request to read a letter, but since she is in the audience, I'm going to ask Melissa Godsky Rodriguez if she would please come to the microphone and read her own letter.
Should I keep my mask up? I'll keep it because I'm near the microphone. Okay. Melissa Godesky Rodriguez, 178 Avenue F. Unfortunately, this isn't the first time I've spoken up against behavior such as of what we've all witnessed today. I hope you are all doing well. I'm happy that I've seen all the board members take out their time and from their families and address such inappropriate behavior. I want to acknowledge the trustees and the rest of the Bayonne Board of Education that has worked so hard to prepare the schools and the educators. I thank you all for that, and I'm sorry that you're being pulled from that attention to this. I attached some policies to the letter I'm reading regarding acceptable use policy. We expect our students, we hold them accountable for this type of behavior. I know we do. I know students that have been held accountable for this type of behavior. How do we expect to hold a student accountable when our trustee is not doing that himself? He claims that being a role model is important, but unfortunately, it seems the words don't really mean much. Enough is enough. No one has to respond, but action must be taken. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Alonzo, you must resign. Find a new hobby, explore a new career, stop playing with our community, and stop your games. You have no place on this board, and that's okay. None of us make perfect decisions. This just wasn't the right one for you. Thank you for taking the time to acknowledge my letter. I do have a minute left, so I just added something. I didn't want to be repetitive. At a time where love, kindness, and acceptance and justice is needed more than ever, we needed a role model to represent this district. Not what you did. You said you care but have done nothing to show this. You push for division instead of unity. You make posts and you say words that are senseless. You make videos that are shallow. You are truly uneducated, and it saddens me that someone like you is making decisions on behalf of our community, our children. This is not the first time you have displayed lack of self-control. You have lied to and deceived this community since day one and continue to do so. Why is the best question, but I'm sure we'll never get that answer. Thank you for hearing me out, and thank you for hearing the public out.
motion on our communications?
I'll move.
Motion by President Bellato. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And there's a second by Vice President Munoz. So on that motion and second, Trustee Alonso?
Yes.
Trustee Broderick?
Yes.
Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Trustee Cassius? Trustee Egan?
Yes.
Trustee Finerty? Trustee Wilbeck?
Yes.
Vice President Munoz?
Yes.
President Bellato.
Yes.
We're going to start with our business portion. We'll start with resolutions from curriculum, instruction, and policy. They are from Resolution A1 up and including A28. Before I take a motion in a second, there is a question by Mr. Gene Woods in relations to Resolution A3. Give everybody a chance to pull the resolution on the rubrics for 2020-21.
Gene Woods, Bayonne Teachers Association President, 128 West 39th Street. I'm pretty sure we're going to discuss this when we get together on our leadership meetings, but I saw in A3 that the Danielson model is going to continue. Obviously, that's the model we've been working with, but I have a lot of concerns about that, considering the fact that we are probably going to be much different than we were at the start of the year, and I'm just wondering, what is going to be done to modify, the Danielson model, since one of the big things that some people get nailed on is the turn and talks. So I'm pretty sure we'll talk about that, but I wanted to bring that up just so that the board is aware of that with the Danielson model. When you look at the frameworks, demonstrating knowledge of students, that's domain 1, 1A and B, and then domain 2, classroom environment, managing classroom procedures, student behavior, organizing physical space. Those are things that are going to have to be modified somehow. And then if you look at domain 3, using question and discussion techniques, and also 3C, engaging students in learning. If we are using this digital platform still, who knows right now if people don't continue to wear their masks, but we got to definitely look at that, because that's something important for our district. So you'll see me a couple more times.
What about the turn and talk thing?
That's it.
So our resolutions for curriculum, do I have a motion? Motion by Trustee Finerty. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Trustee Wilbeck. So that motion and second on the curriculum agenda. Trustee Alonso?
Yes.
Trustee Broderick?
Yes.
Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, A17 also, I didn't put that on there.
No.
I'm sorry.
We were in the middle of a vote. but-
It's in my notes. So A17, it's about the ESL testing. Did we determine how that's going to happen this summer? Because we had a couple of our teachers concerned about that who are in that process of doing that testing.
Most like just right now, the best guys, we're gonna try to we have to do a contactless and remote. I mean, we'll have to figure it out. This is really paid with the federal funds, so the idea is to get the resolution in and build the airplane as we go along, but just like we're doing with credit recovery, just like we're doing with building bridges, just like we're doing with board policy 5410, mostly everything is contactless, so.
Now, if these kids are coming into the district and they are ESL, what are the issues then that need to be dealt with? Like, I know, but again, if they're ESL, they might have a very limited ability.
There's also gonna be a lot of waivers that we're gonna have to look at.
Okay.
And we're still waiting for them to come in from the New Jersey Department of Education, especially with the ESL and any new registrants. But, we wanted to get that resolution in so that we have actually an opportunity, because it's now gonna be July.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll work it out.
All right, well, our members were asking, so I said I would check, because again, if we're gonna do, obviously, if we're not gonna do
Right,
contact.
we're not gonna do the
Yeah,
face-to-face.
that could be a pretty big problem for
No.
the kids if they don't have
Right,
internet access or the language skills.
And everything that we're doing right now is a learning curve for the teachers, learning curve for the administrators, even for the students and parents, in the virtual world, so we'll figure it out.
I would have fired these questions at you earlier, but I got the new additive resolutions now, so
Sure.
it's easier to do it this way.
Thank you, good question.
If I could, Pete?
I'm sorry?
What was
Trustee
that?
Broderick has a question.
What was that question?
I was just gonna make a comment that, from what Mr. Woods said, is that, there's areas, this is a brand-new ballgame for everybody. Day by day, it changes. Special, and I give these people behind me a lot of credit, because things like, groups like ESL, pre-K to K2, I mean, they don't understand, it's such a different ballgame for them. Special ed, I mean, this is unbelievable what's going on right now, and whatever we put on paper today or vote on could be completely different tomorrow, and hopefully in the future it gets better and better. But it's just, this is, as we all say, it's just a different time, and it's gonna be a different time tomorrow and the day after that, so. Oh, my goodness, yeah.
So, I'm good? So on the resolutions, I have a yes vote from trustee Alonso, Broderick, and Burke. Trustee Cassius? Yes. Trustee Egan?
Yes.
Trustee Finerty?
Yes.
Trustee Wilbeck?
Yes.
Vice President Munoz?
Yes.
President Bellato?
Yes.
Okay, at this time, we'll move to finance, our B resolutions. There is a question on resolution B14. Mr. Woods?
It's B14 and B25 with the asbestos. Just a question on when that was found in, I think it was Washington and Mary J? Okay.
So during the boiler process, they had to do an inspection of the building. That began after last month's board meeting.
Okay, so that was after, okay.
Yes, so once they found it, they obviously contained it, and now that they're gonna abate it, the buildings are gonna be shut down to non-essential employees. They're gonna have, all the proper things in place.
Yeah, I saw that the training's going on for them, so I appreciate that. I just wanted to make sure that the custodians and stuff, they were safe in that process. Okay, thank you.
So on the finance resolutions, do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by trustee Broderick and a second.
I'll second.
Second by Vice President Munoz. On that motion and second, trustee Alonso?
Yes.
Trustee Broderick?
Yes.
Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Trustee Cassius? Trustee Egan?
Yes.
Trustee Finerty?
Yes.
Trustee Wilbeck?
Yes.
Vice President Munoz?
Yes.
President Bellato?
Yes.
Next up are our personnel resolutions. I'd like to make a note that Resolution C6, appointment of personnel to Bayonne Alternative High School, is going to get moved to non-consent. So we're going to vote on Resolution C1.
Excuse me, guys.
So Resolution C1 to C59. And Resolution C6 will be moved to non-consent. Mr. Woods, Resolution C3, I think you had a question?
Yes, I'm back again. So I saw that there were new hires for the basketball coaches, and I was wondering, since 3 of the hires are not from the district, did anybody in the district apply for the head coaching position?
Yes, Mr. Woods, we did have,
Question.
yes, Mr. Woods, we did have one other employee from in-district who applied. We also have several football coaches from out of district as well, who are just going to be here as football coaches, as we have done in the past.
So was there an interview done with the person from the district who applied?
I could check with the athletic director, but this is the recommendation from our athletic director.
Okay, because I noticed that he's listed as a sub, so that's, I mean, I have to look back at the statutes and stuff, but I thought they had to hire, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought they had to hire somebody who was certificated staff to coach in the district before they go outside if no one applied.
Well, if you have that information, you could send it to me, but we do not have that information.
Okay, so nobody knows if the person was interviewed who applied?
This is the recommendation from our athletic director.
And, so, the other person that's on the list there, that I saw, not Ben Gamble, but the other assistant coach is listed as having a cert, right? But he's not on the hiring list for teachers. So how, like, I don't know how that works. I'm trying to figure that out myself right now.
So we do have teachers who work in other districts, as we have for many years. They are employees in Union City, Sea Caucus,
Okay.
whether it be a teacher or an administrative position,
That's right,
as they do
football has.
throughout the state, and they coach in other districts, which one happens to be here.
Okay,
Okay?
okay.
Mr. Wood, I'm under the same impression. I had understanding that no one else was interviewed for that position, and I found that a little bit questionable.
The administration, and I don't want to speak for the superintendent, but we stand by our recommendation, which was given to us by our athletic director. Again, we stand by that decision.
I gotta ask for our members.
So, do I have a motion on the personnel resolutions?
I'll make that motion.
And a second?
Second.
So a motion by trustee Cassius and a second by trustee Burke. On that motion and second, trustee Alonso?
You know, I'm sure that person that applied probably cares about the district more than the person coming in from a different district, so I'm gonna have to vote no.
Trustee Broderick?
I had a different question. My question is that I see on a lot of the issues here for hiring people that there's many names, and I was just curious how we select, and on many of the categories, I see the same names. And I just want to make sure that somehow there's a fair and balanced way of hiring people for different positions at different times, that during the course of the year, I may not see the same 8 names on everything, whether it's what's going on. I don't know how we go about doing that, but I'd like to see a little fairer process of doing that. So, right now, at this point, I'll just abstain until I know a better policy of
question,
that.
if you don't mind. Can we table that C6 for further discussion?
Well, it's C6 plus many others for me, to be honest with you. Because I feel like in many categories where it's
Well,
whether security or...
let me continue with our roll call vote. Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Trustee Cassius?
Yes.
Trustee Egan?
Yes.
Trustee Finerty?
No?
Trustee Wilbeck?
No.
Trustee, Vice President Munoz?
Yes.
President Villado?
Yes.
The resolution, the consent, no. The resolutions on personnel pass. Next up is our non-consent agenda. I'm going to start with Resolution C6. Whereas the Bayonne Board of Education operates the Bayonne Alternative High School. It's a list of staff members. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Cassius, and a second
Second.
by trustee Burke. On that motion and second, trustee Alonso,
No.
trustee Broderick,
Yes.
trustee Burke,
Yes.
trustee Cassius,
Yes.
trustee Egan,
Yes.
trustee Finerty,
Abstain?
trustee Wilbeck,
Yes.
vice president Munoz,
Yes.
president Villado.
Yes.
We'll start with Resolution D1. Whereas the Board of Education, to which was referred the proposals received June 16th, 2020, reports that it has examined said proposals and recommends that a contract be awarded to the most advantageous proposal, price, and other factors considered conforming to the request for proposals, and that the school business administrator certifies that funds are available for the expense of this action. Now therefore be it resolved that on Board Council RF number 20-10, a contract will be awarded to McMahon, Scotland, and Bauman LLC at the rate so specified in the proposals for the term commencing July 1st, 2020, and concluding on July 1st, 2021. Be it further resolved that this Board of Education moves that the recommendations of this Board of Education be adopted, that the President is authorized to execute the contract with the Secretary on behalf of the Board, and that the Board Council approves the contract as to form, and/or that the school business administrator be authorized to issue purchase orders for the same. Be it resolved that the Board President and the Board Secretary sign, and on behalf of this Board Council approve same to form. This resolution is effective immediately. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by President Bellato, second,
So seconded.
and a second by Vice President Munoz. So on that motion and second, Mr. Weeks, I'm sorry, Mr. Gene Woods?
Yeah, I just
You had 1 to 4, I didn't, all of them?
I just wanted to know what the name
Go ahead.
was of the law firm, that was all. Because I didn't catch it in the.
Yeah, it's in that
It's not listed in there, but I didn't.
the middle
It's
paragraph.
the one that you dropped on?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't get to grab that one.
Yeah, so you'll see it, under the listings, it's in the, what I guess would be the second paragraph. So on that motion and second, Trustee Alonso?
Yes.
Trustee Broderick?
Yes.
Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Trustee Cassius?
Yes.
Trustee Egan?
Yes.
Trustee Finerty?
Before I vote, I do have to reiterate, receiving this 10 minutes before this meeting, and this is a huge decision on all our legal, I think is an unfair expectation of a trustee. I just got this when I walked into this room. Not a chance to review it, not a chance to make an intelligent, informed decision. That, to me, is not the way to run business. 5 minutes before a meeting? No. I don't know a thing about any of these law firms. This is a board of 9 people. 3 people made the decision. I would like to have been informed of this maybe on Thursday last. It says June 16th on the meeting. I was not informed at a committee meeting that this was taking place tonight. I knew that we were going to change, I know, the contract was to June 30th. But to present this as I walked in the door, I think is very, very, very irresponsible, and I'm very, very much insulted that you expect me now to vote. So, I abstain.
Trustee Wilbeck?
I have to say, I'm in 100% agreement with Ms. Finnerty. This has not been presented to us until this very meeting. And with that thought in mind, it's an example of what I consider poor leadership. This is 9 members on the Board of Education, not only 5. And it's a little perturbing to get information given to you at the last minute and be expected to vote on it conscientiously and in good faith. I say no.
Vice President Munoz?
I say yes.
President Bellato?
Yes.
Resolution D2.
Gary, I didn't see on the one that you handed, I don't have the name of the law firm.
No, on the separate one.
Here, take mine.
Thank you.
I don't need.
Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, I don't have it.
Okay. Resolution D2 is Legal Services General. Be it further resolved that on the General Counsel RFP number 20-11, a contract be awarded to Chasen, Lamparello, Mallon, and Capuzzo at the rates so specified in the proposal for the term commencing July 1st, 2020 and concluding July 1st, 2021. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
So a motion by President Bellato, second by Vice President Munoz. On that motion and second, Trustee Alonso?
I actually have a point of order that we might need to talk about first. You know, our bylaws clearly say that, well, for example, if the teachers' union endorses somebody and they win election, that person's conflicted from voting on contracts and things like that. And our bylaws say that if anybody donates money to a person that runs a campaign and wins, that we shouldn't give that person a contract because it's worth over 17,000. So I don't know why we're even voting on Chase and Rambolello when they donated $900 to Egan and Burke. Our bylaws forbid it.
You would have to pull the bylaw and
Where's the bylaw?
designate which bylaw that is, and we'll look it up.
Yeah, it's also a state law. I
What
think
where
Mr.
is
Neese
the
had
bylaw?
the R.S. Strauss do the update, and they included it in there.
Where's
Also,
the,
New Jersey School Board Association,
Code of Ethics, it's right there. I think it might be number 8 in the Code of Ethics.
Code of Ethics of what?
The New Jersey School Board, the
No, it doesn't say
NJSBA.
that.
It's like number 8 or number 9, one of those.
It's the governance, which I don't think you had gotten, Ms. Villado. It's,
No, I did.
for personnel that have been
I
on the board
did.
for 4 years, and you didn't
I'll
make
read
that
it for
yet.
you. I'll pull it out for you. You said number 8?
You don't know.
That's there, it's in there that you cannot have any connection with any special interest groups.
Yes, please. Thank you.
A special interest group.
I don't have to
We also
Google, I don't have to
forbid
pull up
play,
all
and
my,
that's what this
all
is.
my things.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
seriously,
Come on.
should have refereed volleyball.
I mean, somebody took a check from the Board of
That's
Ed
true.
and returned it, that's okay? All right, let's
That's very
let's-
true.
let's
Hold
move
on,
on.
let's
forward.
clear one thing up.
You're off topic.
No, I'm not.
Egan and Burke
not
didn't
No,
do.
we're not off
We can
topic.
talk.
Guys,
Okay,
we're not on
guys,
the
guys,
point.
guys.
Let's
Egan
hold
and-
it.
Egan
Guys,
and Burke
one at a
didn't do
time,
anything
please.
wrong. They did the right thing. They reported the donation. It's the law firm that did the wrong thing. You guys did the right thing. You reported it.
Now, listen,
It's right here. If anybody wants to see it, it's the ELEC report, right here. 10/30/19. Anybody want to see a copy? I mean, you guys know, you signed it, but anybody else?
But it's a special interest group.
I know, it's not fine. I mean, there are other people that don't follow that.
It's nonsense to me, but you
The middle
find
one.
that out for me.
Yeah, but isn't that a special interest group?
No,
Yeah, but this is legal
Not?
service.
it's not. What is the state number? Which one?
Also, the state law says that if we take this vote,
Which one
the
is it
state
that you're
controller
saying?
is to withhold all state funding. So how are we gonna have school and even pay our teachers if we lose 40% of our funding?
Wait a minute.
What are you
Wait
talking
a
about
minute.
our funding?
That's what our bylaws say. That's what the state law says.
First of all, before we just blanketly say our bylaws say, can we
Can please
please
give me the bylaw?
designate which bylaw, which policy, which reg? I'll be happy to make a copy of it.
Dr. Maida, can you get the bylaw book?
Could you tell me which bylaw you'd like?
Political contributions, RFPs.
What is the number on it? If you looked at, if you saw it, then you have the number on it. Please give us the policy number so we could go get it out.
I mean, we're reviewing the code of ethics right now.
No,
I
it's
gave it
not
to
in
the
the code of
president.
ethics.
Why don't we just table this?
I mean,
Nope.
if you want to table it to look it
Yeah, I
up, or if you
believe
want
that's
to take the
correct. I
vote.
Okay,
recall
let's go.
having.
But wait a minute.
Next one then.
If you brought this to the table,
Contributions from a legal firm to
if you're gonna come here with an allegation as such, you
Then
should
you
have
need
the
to have it.
And you're
Order.
giving conflict.
Yes, if you're gonna come here with the allegations, you should have the regs and the rules
It's
there.
not an allegation, it's a state law, he has it
Oh,
right.
so where
I
are
need
they?
then I need the policy.
Get it, Mr. Maida, can you get it for us? You're the board secretary.
Give me the number.
Give me the number.
Give me the whole book and I'll get it for you.
You're gonna make me do this.
Now, Chase and Lamparello is the firm we've been using, right?
Yes,
They've
and we
been
gave them an
friends.
extension because of COVID. Well, the first reason we gave them an extension was because there was an issue with the way we advertised. Then we blamed COVID. But now what is it for the third time?
The fact that they were reported doesn't alter
And we've
the
been
fact
voting, I have
that
been
they're
voting
under
on
the limit
extension.
as a non-reportable.
Why is this coming up tonight?
Okay.
We're complaining about finding out about things at the last minute. This should have been brought up months ago if this was a problem.
got
This
the donation in
this is,
October. You knew
excuse
that.
me, they are below the limit. They're actually non-reportable contributions. And our people and these people actually reported, so there is no, there you go. Now find it, please.
Dr. Maida, easy,
Excuse me.
Excuse us.
list and he slammed.
Relax. Because they were too heavy for him to carry.
I got that, I got that thing with my
He has that
neck,
terrible
Dennis,
shoulder.
You know that.
Okay, let's move on to the other votes then, while he looks up while he looks it up. We have 2 more to do. Let's get them done.
I don't know.
We have 2 more votes to do. We'll put this one to the side while the trustee Alonso finds that policy. Let's go. D3. No, here, you could have it. You could look it up and tell me which one it is that they're violating, because I don't see any violation.
There is something about not having.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Let's go on the next 2. The ones.
All right, resolution D3. Legal services, special education, be it resolved that on Special Education Council RFP number 20-13, a contract be awarded to Wiener Law Group at the rate so specified in the proposals for the term commencing July 1st. Am I out of order? I'm sorry. I am sorry. No. Let me go back to D3. D3, labor negotiations, legal services. Be it further resolved that on Labor and Negotiations Council RFP-20-12, a contract be awarded to Cleary, Jacoby, Alfieri, Jacobs, LLC, at the rate so specified in the proposal and for the term commencing July 1st, 2020, and concluding on July 1st, 2021. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by President Bellato. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Vice President Munoz. On that motion and second. Mr. Woods, any other questions on? No? Good. Trustee Alonso.
I asked for an advisory opinion from the School Board's Ethics Commission as to whether or not Lisa and Burke and Jane Egan could vote on this matter, considering a partner in this law firm financially benefits from this contract, and it's the mayor's campaign manager, Joe DeMarco, and he endorsed them. So just like the union endorses candidates and then they can't vote on a contract for a year, the same thing should be applied to this situation, so I have to abstain.
Next.
Trustee Broderick.
Yeah, I have a big problem with this one. For one reason that, once again, now if in fact we use this law firm, then we're gonna have 2 law firms that are also law firms for the city. I think us in the city should work together, but we shouldn't necessarily have the same people representing both sides of us. And I think, unfortunately, their side would probably be better represented. The other part of it is, the law firm we presently have has been here a very long time, been here over 40 years. Now, what does that tell you? It tells you that they're either doing something right, or why would they be here? Imagine, so I can only imagine that, they've never lost a case. Imagine, never lost a case, at least since Mr. Clark has been here. I can't even imagine that. That would be like, I don't know, for some of you probably might be too young, but that'd be like firing Perry Mason. It's just ridiculous. If you never lose a case and all of a sudden we don't want you anymore. There's just, I can't even imagine where this is coming from, that we'd be looking to change law firms at this point. And for all those reasons, I have to definitely vote no.
Trustee Burke.
Yes.
Trustee Cassius.
Yes.
Trustee Egan.
Yes.
Trustee Finerty.
Before I vote? School Board of Ethics, right here. Oh, goodness, it was letter F, not number 8. I will refuse to surrender my independent judgment to special interest or partisan political groups. You have violated that. You have violated that. Anybody who is supported by the Democratic Party organization for their run is in violation.
No, it doesn't.
No say? Well, you
Okay.
want to take it up with the NJSBA? It's
Go
right
ahead,
there.
write an ethics
He
complaint on
has a
us.
paper there that
Write
says,
an ethics complaint
I'm
on
not
us and
gonna
send
write
it
an
and let
ethics
the
complaint.
review
I have
come
better
in.
things to do.
Okay,
I'm just
then.
gonna vote
All right.
no. This
Okay.
is wrong.
Okay.
Okay,
Whole thing is
trustee-
wrong.
Trustee Wilbeck?
No.
President Munoz?
Good.
I'm sorry, Vice President Munoz?
Yes.
And President Bellato?
Yes. For the trustees, when we go to back, I will show you why I would not renew it, what you wanted me to renew. I will not state it up here because, the lawyer had said that general counsel said this would be need to handle, discussed in the back. So at the end of the meeting, I will give you these and you can then see why. Next. Right, we're done?
One more.
No, we did resolution D4.
Perfect.
And then go back to D2.
So this one went yes?
Be it further resolved that on Special Ed Council RFP number 20-13, a contract be awarded to Wiener Law Group at the rate so specified in the proposals for a term commencing July 1, 2020 and concluding on July 1, 2021. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by President Bellato, second.
I'll second.
Second by Vice President Munoz. On that motion and second, Trustee Alonso.
No.
Trustee Broderick.
For all the previous reasons I gave in D3, definitely no.
Trustee Burke.
Yes.
Trustee Kasai.
Yes.
Trustee Egan.
Yes.
Trustee Finerty.
No.
Trustee Wilbeck.
No.
Vice President Munoz.
Yes.
President Bellato.
Yes.
Going back to Resolution D2. Be it further.
It looks like it falls under NJAC 6A23A, the fiscal accountability and efficiency in budgeting procedures.
Okay.
No?
What, how so?
Well, it says that no board will take a vote in favor or any other way if somebody who submits a bid
Where
also
is-
gave a
Can you
donation.
find it in there so we can
No,
actually
no,
read
don't
it?
paraphrase it, read it.
Read it.
Well, I just read it, it's on my phone, because this isn't the updated version from Strauss Esme.
You didn't read it verbatim, read it verbatim.
Well, you could look it up too. I mean, if you guys want to
you're the one
violate
with
the
the
law.
complaint.
Reading this.
You're the one with the
Read
complaint.
it from the
I just
phone.
told you. I just told you.
No.
You can't do it, it's illegal.
we
If you don't
find-
want to have legal
Can
counsel,
we
look it up, we'll be
find,
paying them for
can
it.
we find that?
I can't hear what you're.
What was the
referring to.
number of that again, please? What was the number?
Mr. Alonso, what was the
Mike,
statute
You
again?
want to give them the number?
Oh, they would like the fiscal accountability.
Yes, what is the number?
NJAC
NJAC
6A23A.
6A23A. Okay, we'll recess. I need to go.
6A23A what?
6A923A.
23A what, Mike?
Yeah,
Is
no,
there a
it's-
motion to
it's
take a
all in
short
there. That's the whole-
recess?
that's the
It's
whole law.
6A923A?
Mr. President,
Yeah,
Yes, that is what it is?
that's what it says.
did you have a?
I'm just asking you the number, Michael, because they didn't hear you.
NJAC 6A:23A.
I got the book inside. You making a motion for a second?
Motion for recess?
Motion by President Bellato for a short recess. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Trustee Cassius on that motion. Trustee Alonso for a recess.
Yes.
Trustee Broderick.
Yes.
Trustee Burke.
Yes.
Trustee Cassius.
Yes.
Trustee Egan. Trustee Finerty. Trustee Wilbeck. Vice President Munoz. President Bellato. It's 6:25. The board will return shortly.
Wait, we're missing Dennis.
I am going to,
There he is.
we're going to reconvene the public meeting. It's 6:43. I'm going to take a roll call, make sure we don't lose anybody.
Thank you.
Trustee Alonso. Trustee Broderick. Trustee Burke.
Here.
Trustee Cassius. Trustee Egan. Trustee Finerty. Trustee Wilbeck.
Here.
Vice President Munoz. And President Villado.
Here.
Mr. President, Trustee Alonso has the Title 6A book. I believe he wants to read something out of it.
It says, as a condition of receiving state aid, each school district shall have policies that comply with the provisions of this section. Number 1, no district board of education shall vote upon or award any contract in the amount of $17,500 or greater to any business entity that has made a contribution reportable by the recipient under PL 1973C to a member of the District Board of Education during the preceding one-year period. The same rules that the teachers union has to go by. So.
Okay, thank you so much. That is what we're talking about, the word reportable. The amount of the donation is a non-reportable amount. Just because these two trustees wanted to report all funds that came in to their run, their campaign, they did not have to report this. It is a non-reportable amount. Therefore, please, Mr. Maida, call the vote. Thank you so much.
ELEC limits are $300 or $400 per candidate. 300, there you go. So anything over $300 has to be reported. Ms. Burke, myself, and we had a third candidate run with us. So $300 per person, so it's below the limit, it didn't have to be reported, but we reported for this, for reasons like this. We didn't have to.
It was 300 a person.
It has to be
$300 more.
above. Go ahead, please call the vote. Thank you.
Well, yeah.
Thank you, we're calling the vote.
Yes, call the vote.
So we have a motion by President Villado, a second by Vice President Munoz. Mr. Woods, is there a question?
Yeah, kind of pains me a little right now, but I'm a little concerned about that.
Okay,
And you know,
thank you.
Mr. Alonso's right on it. I can't,
Congressman Minnis,
you know,
please.
I'm gonna say the truth when I can. What's troubling is that
3 minutes, please.
if they did give money, and then again, if this is the rules of the state, obviously I can't supersede that, and no one else can. But if one of us, if our union, our PAC committee endorses a candidate, they can't vote on things that represent us. And this one company, or this one law firm, is responsible in the city for multiple developments. The Alexian, Skylofts, the Bayonne Crossing. So,
Lamparella?
yeah, so it's Laura's project. This is the McMahon, Scotland and Bowman.
No, that's not the
No,
one we're
no.
talking
Okay,
about, sorry.
So, okay, so I'm going just to
you
that
timing
one, but, you know, because I guess they're kind of two together. You know, that's a little concerning for me, because then the city
Okay.
is going to have some power and leverage in the negotiations when it comes time for us to sit down.
You do know what we're voting on, right? We are voting on general counsel.
It's got nothing to do with.
Nothing to do with McDonald's.
We already did negotiation. We
Yeah, you
already
know,
did the
well, 'cause I
labor.
didn't get
We're
to
talking
bring-
about
I didn't get to
general
bring that
counsel.
up though before,
The
because I
board.
had to do the research real quick to
The
find
board.
out who this firm was.
Okay, that
So I'm
vote's
just- I'm
done.
just tying
That's not the
those
vote
two-
we're doing.
No, I'm just tying the two together, because
Not the vote we're
again,
doing right now. Thank you. We're voting on Lamparella.
I do
Who are we voting
understand
on for
that,
again?
but see,
Lamparella?
Lamparello, Mallon, Capuzzo.
Yes, that's who we're voting on right now. That's
Yeah, I
the one
know,
we're
but I'm
doing.
talking about the overall Ds.
Mm-hmm.
To bring that up, because I'm tying it together, because if you look at how they will both
Mm-hmm.
tie, right? We already had the issue with the tax abatements in a town that I
Mhm.
brought up before about funding in a
1
town.
minute.
My only concern is that when it comes time for negotiations, is that leverage going to be maneuvered?
We're not
No.
voting on
We are voting on general counsel, that is the board council.
Yes, but
That
you
is
already,
all,
yeah,
the
no, you
board
already
council.
voted, you already did vote.
Okay, how
Correct me
many
if I'm
minutes
wrong,
am I
did you
up
already
to?
not vote on that law
I'm
firm?
up to
2 minutes.
2 minutes? Okay.
You said.
McMahon, that's not the one we're voting on?
But did you vote on that one already?
Bond counsel.
Bond council, yes, we voted on that already.
To be very frank, we have, if we don't bond, we don't use them.
Okay,
So if we don't bond, we don't use them. So
so
don't
they
get
won't
money.
be involved in negotiations?
No.
No.
Okay,
bond.
all right, listen, I just wanted to, listen, I'm still allowed to ask that, that's a little
Yes, it's not,
disrespectful
but
to
I'm
laugh at
telling
what
you,
I'm
no,
asking.
that's not the
Never
one
mind
we're
the fact
voting on.
that, Mr.
That's
Egan,
not
you're on
the one that we're
zoning
doing.
board here in the town. You're not
What
anymore?
time is it?
Because I got elected.
Okay, all right, so you came up, but see, I have to ask because I gotta
29,
protect 900 plus
30.
members,
It was not.
all right? So I need to
Legally, I
ask.
could have stayed. Legally, I had no problem, I could have stayed, but I chose to resign
All
because
right.
it was not appropriate.
I had to ask, again, for
100%.
our 900 plus members. That's why I need
100%.
to see how that went. That's all.
I got you. And again, so, for example, the way the balance council works, if we don't bond, we don't use them.
Okay,
So if we choose not to bond, and I mean, I don't know of any bonds out there now.
okay.
We
No,
wouldn't even
but
give them
five,
bonds.
4 seconds
So-
left.
So I'm
Great,
corrected.
thank you.
Listen, I needed to make sure. That's all I needed to do.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, can I add this comment to it?
No, I said,
As
what?
I said before, I'm
Yes, go
very,
ahead.
very much upset,
Go ahead.
insulted. Had D1, 2, and 3 been presented earlier, then maybe further investigation and informed and conscientious decision-making could have been done. This was handed to us when we came into the room. That's not right. That's not fair. The decisions were already made. That is evident. I didn't have a chance to look, nor did Mr. Woods. This should have been handed out. It said June 16th, if I'm not mistaken. I gave my copy.
They were
to-
received.
They were
June 16th.
received, they
We
had
got
to be
them.
reviewed.
Well, anyway, we had a meeting on Thursday.
And
It
that's
would have
when
been
they were
nice to
reviewed.
have known this beforehand. And this has been one of the major complaints among this current board, along with the new board trustees, that oftentimes 5 or 10 minutes before we come out here, we're supposed to make a decision. And this was huge. And I really think that it was unfair to be giving it to us and then, okay, let's vote on it. And this is not the first time something like this has happened.
If
And
I
I'm very
might.
disappointed.
Not only that, to my understanding and past precedent, Mr. Chairman, is that the chairpersons of the committees are supposed to make reports to the other trustees. And that has not happened in almost a year now.
Since January.
Well, since you got appointed.
So, no, I
Well,
elected.
January,
I
yeah,
got
you-
elected.
You can even give me the exact same date, Mr. Egan. The point is that there are no committee reports to the other trustees.
Well, if it's a year, it predates me. Because January is when I was elected. I came on the board in January. So if you're telling me for a year we haven't been doing
Well,
reports,
it's
then I
just
can't help you before January.
expression. If you want to be
Who was the vice
exact,
president
I'll
before
give you the
January?
exact day in January to today's date.
So not a
I
year.
mean, cut
Couple
me
months.
some slack here. Have
Okay.
you made a committee report?
Well, I'm not a chairperson of the committee.
He's not a chairperson.
Oh, so then excuse me. Has any chairpersons on committees here made reports to the other trustees? No.
Well, you were chairperson last year, did you make the report for us?
The reports were made because young lady over here was the chairperson.
Ms. Finneran.
Who was the
When I was
chairperson? We didn't get it.
Well.
We would never get it.
Curriculum committee sends an agenda out. We
Well,
haven't
what
had
about
a
the
curriculum
second?
meeting.
So we're gonna vote, can we please
Who
finish
did
We
the
have
vote?
a
Thank you.
motion and a second on resolution D2. On that motion and second, trustee Alonso,
you have had finance meetings.
You can pull yours.
trustee Broderick,
I think they're a very good firm, they've done a good job, but I'm gonna abstain because I don't know what the true legality of this is, and I don't wanna be involved in a non-legal episode.
That's what I should have done.
Trustee
That's what I
Byrd.
should have done 2 years ago. Just say Byrd.
Yes, sorry.
trustee Cassius, trustee Egan,
Yes.
trustee Finerty,
Same, please.
abstain. Trustee Wilbeck,
No.
Vice President Munoz,
Yes.
President Bellato.
Yes,
Okay, that is all the business, but we do have
cards.
cards.
You already went through it. I have another question. This just popped into my mind.
Let's go through
We
the
need the
cards
cards.
first, please.
All right.
First up is Miss Virginia Johnson, 47 Boatworks Drive, Bayonne.
Aye, thank you, everyone, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to present my question to the Board of Education, and it relates to education. And my understanding is that the total population of the school is approximately 3,000 students, give or take one or two. And that the number of students who participate in the elective that would provide them some further knowledge of African Americans and what we have provided is 24. So my question to you, esteemed board, is what can you do to give that elective African American studies the same level of precedence that's given to the other studies? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Lopez, do we not have black literature on our English curriculum?
That would be Mr. Dugnan. That would be Dr. Dugnan.
We do abide by the Amistad, and the course that you're talking about is open to anybody that chooses to do that. We do have flyers that go, we do have flyers that go out that allow anybody that wants to take it. If there's 24, it would be one section. If there's 50, we would have two sections.
Well, so my question still is, there are only 24, then something could be done to emphasize. So how can the awareness be stimulated?
It could be through the students, through the vice principals, the director of social studies.
Okay, so these people.
And again, everybody is afforded the opportunity to take that course. All courses are open.
Got it.
Right. Just if there's any electives, robotics.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
But some electives are promoted more than others.
Well, the teachers promote them. Yes.
So education of the teachers
Yes.
is paramount.
I'll bring it up with the staff. Thank you.
He's the guy that does the course.
Next up is Ms. Camille High.
Thank you, Board. I'm a representative of Black in Bayonne. I have a quick question. I'm also an educator. We are currently experiencing two pandemics, as you all know. Right now, we're experiencing racism, and we are experiencing COVID-19. What is the Board of Education of Bayonne going to do to support the students, the Black and brown students who are now experiencing both COVID? I saw on, I think it's C40, I believe, you're bringing in a social and emotional outreach. I wanted to know how that's going to intertwine with students that look like me. Because as of right now, I'm looking at the board and nobody looks like me. So is the social and emotional outreach, whoever they are they going to be, you know, a representative of the students that look like me? I was born and raised in Bayonne, 30 years. I actually wanted to be an educator because someone here looked like me. So I do think it's very important that if you are going to bring in someone that's from a social and emotional outreach, they do look like the students who are currently experiencing two pandemics. So I want to know, if you could answer this question right now, what is the board's plan right now to do that?
Well, first of all, the board trustees don't hire individual teachers. That's the professional staff. What we did tonight, we vote on the approval of their recommendations.
Okay.
So, you know, understand that that's the case. We don't do that. They know better. We're not educated. Some of us are educators. We're educators, but I'm not. I
So can they answer me then?
Yeah, definitely. I just want you to understand that,
Okay.
that we hear you even though they're going to talk.
Okay.
Or I hear you. Even though
Okay, so they can't.
They can talk.
reply.
They can say what they want to say.
Okay.
But I
just
want you to
wanted
know we hear you too.
I think it's something that's crucial that needs to be.
Yeah, definitely. No, 100%.
Needs to be done.
I know, if I can say, I know Mr. Kopacz did several, you know, goes to schools, trying to recruit black teachers, so I'd let him, if he wants to,
We need
but I know that for a
qualified,
fact.
if the applications come in, they're reviewed, and candidates are selected. Sometimes we don't get applications from African American students, college students that want to come in.
So would I be able to comment on that? So as we said it in Power in the Park was, there's a stigma and there's a stereotype that black educators are not welcomed here. I was born and raised in Bayonne. I wanted to become an educator because of a black woman, because of Jane Roberts. She stood before me and she looked like me. I cut my hair so I could be like her. I walked into my classroom so I could be like her. So representation does matter. And I understand you are Kenny Copus. I appreciate you going out and reaching out, but there's obviously a huge disconnect. There's a huge disconnect. And I was wondering, what could we do, could there be a way that we can connect so that we can bring more educators in? Like, connecting with other Black educators, why we don't want to be here in our own city. Mr. Woods had brought up a point. He was like, me and my sister Clarice, she works in East Orange. So she worked in Board of Education, got her degree, and now she's in a whole other school district. This is another Black educator that we're missing out on. So this is what I'm saying too. Like, is there any way that we can create a sit down, maybe trying to break down these stereotypes and say, hey, we need more Black educators in Bayonne, New Jersey. The stereotype has to be broken. So I'm sorry, I've kept talking.
Now he'll talk. Thank you.
And we have a comprehensive equity plan and team that we meet on a yearly basis. It's a 3-year plan. We would love to have you. We're going to be doing that this summer. We look at board responsibility, staff development and training, school and classroom practices, and hiring practices. What we have been doing, the comprehensive equity plan? Comprehensive equity plan? Yeah. So, and we've been going to local job fairs in our state schools and recruiting minority candidates. I think if you look at our resolution today, I think we hired, 11 teachers or school nurses or school psychologists. I believe over 50% of those are minority. So we are working on that. We have identified that, and we're going to continue to do that. But we would love to have you on that comprehensive team. Okay.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that, we brought this up because right now I'm looking at a bunch of people that don't look like me, and I'm experiencing right now, going back to our classrooms or going back into the fields that we work in, it's hard. So I'm wondering, students that are experiencing these, this pandemic, what's happening?
And then on C42, we do have our guidance counselors are going to be available, and that's why they're at 1-200. We do understand the issues that we have right now, and we take them very serious. So we.
How many of those counselors are Black or brown?
It'd be one.
Just one?
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying?
I understand.
So this is why we definitely welcome the opportunity to connect with you. Thank you. I appreciate you actually extending it.
Thank you. We also another initiative that we have at Bayonne High School that we're looking to grow. Obviously, it's been stopped right now due to the pandemic, but we're looking to have a CTE program where students at Bayonne High School would be introduced to teaching, and we would have students here. So those students from our high school would be able to come downstairs and be introduced to the profession. So then hopefully we would be able to hold on to those candidates after they
Absolutely,
graduate.
I love that idea. Thank you for answering my question. I appreciate you guys giving us time. Thank you.
We have a principal at Midtown.
Next up is Mr. Dominic Velez, Bayonne High School. Thank you, Dominic.
No problem. Hello, my name is Dominic Velez, and I am a student that attends Bayonne High School. I would like to state my respect for the Bayonne Board of Education for holding an emergency meeting when they saw that one of their members had committed a disservice to the position that they held. By this, I am referring to the situation of Michael Alonzo. I appreciated the quick and decisive action, and I'm sure many Bayonne citizens did as well. However, I would like to point out that his behavior hasn't recently begun. It has been a consistent issue for years. I would first like to address the board by citing a few examples of things that Mr. Alonzo has shared or said on his Facebook account that citizens such as myself have deemed to be alarming. In July of 2013, Michael Alonzo called for the veto of the ban on conversion therapy, stating that it robs parents of their rights and silences opposition to homosexual behavior while encouraging that same behavior. In August of 2013, Michael Alonzo reposted a post from an account named God Created Marriage for Men and Women, reading man plus woman equals marriage God's way, in addition to 3 other posts from the same account. In August of 2017, Michael Alonzo reposted a post reading Black people who were never slaves are fighting white people who were never Nazis over a Confederate statue erected by Democrats because Democrats can't stand their own history anymore and somehow it's Trump's fault? Interesting. My intention is not to call the board out on its lack of action, as I'm sure many of you share my sympathies that messages like these are unacceptably disrespectful and destructive to the respectful and diverse environment we have in Bayonne. I would also like to state that I have no issue with anyone's political alignment or opinion since I don't have one to begin with, and I respect the difference of opinion that we have in our community. However, as many of you are aware, this issue goes far beyond the difference of political opinion. At this point, it is an issue of morals, and it is an issue of hate and aggression. Hate should never have a place to live on the board that represents our school, district, or within its representatives. It has found a place to live with Michael Alonso, and it has lived, grown, and festered for years. I and other members of the community have watched this go on for years, and I think it's safe to say that we've had enough. If you need proof of this, you can look at the citizens behind me in protest, in addition to the petition going around, reinforcing the collective desire for this individual to resign or be removed from the board by the state. Secondly, I would like to address Michael Alonso. You posted a video response to the remarks of the board made during the emergency meeting, minimizing its urgency and the ethical concerns of the board and the community that you serve. I would first like to tell you that the video was an ingenuine laughingstock at best. You seem to think that interrupting the employees at the stores that you threatened with your incitement of violence in an attempt to save your political career makes up for the amount of hate you have chosen to spread, in the full knowledge that you are one of the representatives of a diverse school district. Any individual with common sense could see through the inadequate justification you made for your own actions. Next, I would like to address the specific remarks you made in the video. You stated that other trustees should practice what they preach. You also stated that we should practice tolerance, and this is supposed to be a bully-free zone, and that we should accept each other's differences. These statements contradict each other, as you yourself have gone back on what you have previously preached, messages of hate and intolerance. You may deny all you want, but we know that your intolerance of people who are different than you have fueled your actions that have inevitably caused the board to call for your resignation. You should practice what you preached in the video instead of representing our district with your hateful actions. You also stated that kids look for a role model and a leader, and that is what this board should do, lead by example. With all due respect, you are not someone that I would personally consider fit to be a role model. You've disgraced your position by falsely representing a school district that stands for the diversity of the community it serves. Performatively and disingenuously thanking employees for their service out of pressure to do so and pure desperation to save your public image doesn't erase that fact, and it makes no amends, and the community sees that. Finally, I would like to address the members of this community who are watching and share my sympathies. While the board unfortunately cannot remove him from his elected office, we can make it very clear why he is unfit to be a trustee on this Board of Education to other members of the community, and come November, you can take action into your own hands by voting him out. Continue to spread the word, and we can make a positive impact on our community. I stand with you, and I support you. Thank you to the Board of Education for allowing me to speak my piece and for taking action in condemning the hateful and provocative statements that Mr. Alonso has made. I wish you all a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Miss Dorothy Patterson, 48 West 17th Street.
Good evening, everyone. Before I say anything, I want to say to this young man, that was absolutely wonderful.
Yes.
I'm serious. From an individual who spent a lot of time speaking, marvelous. Amen. I want to, again, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I want to just say that as I was sitting there listening to the different dialogue about what is going on and what's happening, I think this young man kind of covered some of it for me. But the last particular issue where it seems to be a whole lot of conflict between the board itself, there's a saying that Virginia just reminded me of. It says, living in a glass house, one shouldn't throw stones. And it reminded me of the mere fact that one of the reasons why I'm standing here is because of the hatred that I feel that's coming from Trustee Alonso. And it is really funny and a joke in a way that he talked about words like violating. You know, he talked about words like ethics. You know, when I think about, you know, constant things that you put out, your behavior, etc. And then you would come here and talk about ethics, violating. When you speak those things, you violate against a whole entire people. And that's okay when you're dealing with a situation like this. You can see you can see in your mind that you can come up with something that is possibly wrong, but you don't see that your behavior is wrong. And I want to speak to an entire board. That's for every single one of you that's up here. For some of those who see that this is an issue, and obviously for me, this is the kind of, this particular behavior is not something that just started. It is behavior that's been on this board for a long time, but you didn't speak out about that. You allowed that to go and go and go and go. And so for me, it speaks something about all of you that's on this board, that for years, if this is the kind of behavior that's going on and you haven't spoke out about it, but it's okay to speak about something now. And I'm not saying I'm agreeing with your statement or disagreeing with your statement as it relates to the law firm. But if you want to deal with something like that and you want to consider it to be unethical, it to be a violation, you don't believe a person's behavior to speak out ill and spew hatred in a community is something that's violating, you don't see that as unethical, I have a problem with that. And getting back to, I think it's kind of bouncing off something that Virginia said, I have a question as it relates to African Americans' employment here. And I've heard what was already said. But here's my question. How do we get to a place, and you all may not be the ones who have undergird this behavior over years, but you're the ones that's here right now. And so I have to pose that to you all that's here now. And I know the superintendent just got here, but I have to pose that to the individuals who are here right now. In a school system that we have about 10,000 students, am I correct, somewhere around there? We have 19 African American teachers. 10,000 students and 19 African American teachers? Wow. You talked about, well, you saw one. That's not a good ratio. You saw one. You cannot tell me that there are not African Americans that are qualified to teach in this school system. For several years now, I've had dialogue with Mr. Broderick. I've given him applications of individuals who are working in the school system right now that's more than qualified. And so when you say that it's not being done, applications are not getting places, then there's a problem, because I know I submitted several of them myself. And I said, give them to me because I'm going to take it to someone that I believe is going to get it where it needs to go. Now, I'm standing here today, whether or not that happened or not, I don't know. But I know those persons were more than qualified, have experience working already in this system, went on to get higher degrees in supervision, etc. Job posted, they apply, never get, no one contact them to even interview them. And that conversation I had with Mr. Broderick about that. So I'm saying, I hear what you're saying, what you're going to do, or what you have planned, but I'm saying that you all have not been doing what you need to do. There needs to be a better accountability when people submit their applications. And I understand, I heard you say you don't get them. So my question is, who gets the applications when they're submitted? That's not rhetorical, I really want to know.
How are you, Reverend? So applications come in, and depending on what the job is, so if it would be a teacher at Washington Community School, the principal would receive that application. They put a committee together, and then they'll send a recommendation up to central office. Again, central office does not interview for individual positions. Whatever department or school that position or that vacancy is in, that administrator in charge of that department would send that recommendation and be in charge of screening those candidates.
So you're saying that the applications first go to the individual schools where that person is applying to?
Yeah, whatever the vacancy would be.
Okay.
So it's an online system. So if we have a position for a 5th grade. And again, just using the school, if it's at Mary J. Donahue School, the principal and the director in charge of that subject area would put a committee together to screen the applicants, and then they send their recommendation up to central office. We do not screen those candidates, nor do we want to be making those decisions for the people who are in charge of that building or department.
Okay, so, understood. So I'm asking the question, is there some accountability on those individuals that get those applications? Because I know personally, this person filled out an application. I know that for sure. I took the hard copy that they gave me because they said they never got any response. And I gave it to Mr. Brock. So I'm saying, what is the accountability? I think we need to look at the system. I've gotten so many individuals call me and say, I applied at Bayonne, for school system in Bayonne. I haven't received any feedback. I mean, is that something that we could take a look at, Superintendent?
You know what, I was just about to say to you, you know what? We can work together as a team, Reverend, you know that. We met, I think, when we talked about Christmas decorations. Listen, the bottom line is we need to communicate, and to do that, and again, I started in last August, but real simple. If we have an opening, we need to reach out to the community and be reflective of the community. It's that process that needs to happen. So we can do that. We can work together as a team.
All right. My other question is simply this. Somebody from the education just texted me this, but so Governor Murphy, they said, announced that school will reopen in September. What's your thoughts regarding that, Superintendent?
What are my thoughts, or what am I planning to do?
What are you planning on doing as it relates to that?
That's a loaded question. So we just received on Friday at 1 o'clock 104 pages of recommendations. A lot has been kicked to the local school district to make a decision in reference to that. We put together numerous plans prior to that, and now what we've got to do is we've got to figure out how do we best get our education to our community, and in a safe manner. Because the plan is this. In this coming week, we're going to do a little research development, get some surveys out to our community. The following week, we're going to sit down and we're going to start meeting with teams of people and involving some parents, some students, and we're going to talk to all of our stakeholders. We're going to take that information, we're going to roll it into a plan. You heard Trustee Finity talk about this group of people that we're going to come in, some adults. We're going to kind of see what it looks like for our community. And then on July 27th, on that Monday, we're going to present to the board a plan. And why does it have to be so condensed in those 4 weeks? We have to, as you know, we all know, we have 10,000 students and thousands of employees, and we have to put this together. We have 4 weeks, and everything's been kicked back to the district. We got 4 weeks to do it, and then we have to get it to the community within 4 weeks of the school year, and that's provided that the pandemic doesn't do a 180 on us and change. So we're gonna, as I said on Friday when I put that letter out to the community, the plan, it's coming, it's being released by the governor. It leaves a lot to be desired in terms of what are the actual parameters that we can do it. And I ask you this, what happens if in one school we have a child or a faculty member that gets, or comes in contact with somebody with COVID-19 and they have to isolate for 14 days? Well, do we have to shut down the whole school? These are decisions we have to make in a very rapid manner. And I also ask you this, they're going to allow faculty, employees, and students, if they don't feel safe, they can stay home. What will that do to the education for our students? There is something called the summer, and I'm sorry for talking about this, but we are being consumed with this over the last several months. And now we finally get something. It's not great, but we're going to work with what we have. We have to make it work. It's not going to be great, which is really sad. We have diverse learners. We have English language, second language, learning the language. There is so much inequity of us allowing our students to stay home. They need to come to school to get educated, but when we think of their safety and security, that's a priority. So we've got to balance all those things and put together a plan that is conditional on their learning, that has a leadership protocol, we do so with policy and funding, and we got to keep the continuity of learning going. So we're going to put some plans into place. We're going to use something called Schoolology, which is this online learning platform. But there are so many moving parts to this, and we've got to do it in the most expeditious fashion to get it to our community, and we don't want to leave anyone behind. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge of epic proportion for districts large and small. And as you know, we have some capacity issues with our buildings. So how do we socially distance in our schools? That's a challenge. We've got some plans for that, but we're working through those, and when we got this plan concrete, we're going to get to that as soon as possible.
All right, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for that, because I completely agree that it is a challenge, and I believe going forward it will be a challenge. Whether you open up in September or not, it still is going to be a challenge. And listening to what you're saying, it really is going to be a challenge for those teachers. Because if there's an option for children to stay home and you got children in school, so we will be keeping the Board of Ed in terms of those particular decisions and the transition and those teachers, et cetera, in our prayers. I want to just say this again. I appreciate the answers in which I've received tonight, but I want you all to know, as far as I'm concerned, I will come to the meeting. I will do as much as I possibly can so that we have an understanding of what needs to take place in this particular community as relates to all of the children. Not just children that look like me, but children that don't look like me and don't look like some of you as well. And so I'm just not standing here just for us, but I'm standing for all of them as well. And I'm sure as time go on, it'll be more other individuals of color that will be standing here, because this is absolutely, from my point of view, it is absolutely ridiculous. They have 19 African-American teachers in a school system that is 10,000. In addition to that, I want to say that no matter how many board meetings you have, I'll be here. Because my thing is simply this: I think you need to have been gone a long time ago. And I will constantly come. You want to speak about all these other things, I'm telling you, this is mind-boggling, ethical, using these words. But you don't see anything wrong with your behavior? I'm going to take this opportunity to apologize to myself, because I should have, the thing of it is, I reminded myself that I shouldn't speak to individuals that don't know any better. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend.
Reverend Patterson, I just want to address some of the things, if you may, just 1 second. I just want to. So, look, I agree with you, when it comes to people of color in this district. I sit on that diversity committee as a board member with Mr. Kopaz and Mr. Woods. And we sat here last year in this very room, and I sat here with Mr. Woods and Ms. Pike, African-American female teacher in this district who I respect tremendously. And we talked about going out there to the HBUs, the, historically black universities, historically black colleges, and actively recruiting people of color. Not just African-Americans, all people of color, to diversify our district, right? So I want to let you know that that was something that we pushed for back in that committee, and Assistant Superintendent Kopaz has taken that seriously by going to the state schools and doing that. Do I think that we're doing everything we can? No. Do I think we're going to get better? Yes. But I want to let you know it has been discussed amongst that committee, and I know Mr. Woods is a very active member of that committee. So I just want to give you a heads up about that diversity committee, which was done a lot to address that. And we have diversified our staff under or since that committee. And then as far as just to address the other point about Mr. Alonzo's previous conduct and you thinking that the whole board, or you suggesting that the whole board accepted it, I want to let you know that many members of this board had gone to the former superintendent, the former president, and legal, asking, begging, demanding that these things be addressed, and it never was. Wow. So when you talk about getting to this point, I agree. This should have been nipped in the bud a long time ago. But I don't want you to think that any member of this board, let me rephrase that, not every member of this board, but I want to assure you that a majority of the members of this board have questioned, complained, and have made complaints about the same things that you're talking about now for previous things. I just want to let you know, because I don't want you to think that we've been sitting up here for 3 years accepting everything. We've been screaming and yelling, and you could actually Google some of the stuff where I've been on here saying the same things that I'm saying now, and the same things that I said last meeting, that I said earlier about this individual. All right? And like you said, you won't address people that don't deserve to be addressed. I won't either. So I have definitely addressed this. Other board members have. I think it's a shame that the former superintendent and the former president didn't act on it when we asked. It wasn't just me, it was many members of this board. And this could have been nipped in the bud a long time ago. So I want to thank you. And before, I know it's not addressed to you, but to the gentleman behind you. Dude, I gotta tell you, you're my hero. I mean, you are amazing. You are an effective public speaker. And you know what, when we're talking about people of color going into teaching, you should be a teacher. Because if you could inspire kids in the classroom, like you just inspired some people on this board, then you know what, you'd be very effective at your job. So I hope and I implore you, please go into teaching. All right? All right, thank you. I just wanted to address that, Reverend
No,
Patterson.
that's fine. You just gave me another project.
Okay.
Because if what you're saying is absolutely true, then I need to have a conversation with the former president and the former superintendent.
Please do.
You
I mean,
know?
I just want to point out, when
And
that
I'm
committee.
good with it.
Yeah, when that committee came out, and I was questioned in the paper about that, I brought up the fact that there were 12 African-American females in this district and 8 African-American males teaching. And then there were only 34 Hispanic females and 18 Hispanic males. Okay, that's 46 males, 26 females. That's 92 people of color in this district, out of a district of 900. I questioned that, and I was attacked on social media and the papers for it. I was attacked by some people on this board that said, why are you making color an issue? Okay? So you know what? The reason why it's an issue is because I agree that people, now I want to make this very clear. There are many teachers that I graduated from here, class of 95, proud of it. There are many teachers who were not minorities who made a huge impact in my life. I'm a history teacher now because of a guy named Mr. McKenna, who was one of the greatest teachers, history teachers that walked through this high school, and he inspired me to teach. Okay? And that's why. And he was not a person of color. But I do say, and I understand the value of people who look like you. All right? Representation, people, role models that look like you, that inspire you to go into education. I understand that. And as the first Latino in this community elected to this Board of Education, that's very important to me. So I just wanted to bring that out. I want to say that to you. Okay?
And here's my thing simply, it has nothing whatsoever to do with devaluing anyone else.
Agreed.
It's just the fact that exactly what you said. You cannot have a school system with 10,000 individuals, and I didn't find out how many African Americans there is, but to have 19 African Americans, that needs to change.
Right.
That needs to change. Thank you.
Don't disagree. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Patterson.
Next up, Shonda Jacobs, 70 West 51st Street.
Good evening, everyone. Piggybacking off of what everyone said, especially this young man right here, with your guilt, Alonzo, you should resign. You should really resign if you have a conscience. If you don't have a conscience, you just sit there and you look like a sad puppy. You need to resign. Thank you.
Mr. Woods?
All right. So the first thing I'll bring up is what Mr. Munoz brought up about previous superintendent. When I got up and I spoke, I guess right before, I guess he was going to leave, and I brought up the fact that it would be a great idea to bring Black Lives Matter Week at school to our district, I was destroyed by him, yelled at like I was a child, and I didn't pursue it any further. Superintendent and I now have had a lot of conversations about bringing diversity into our district, whether it's changing things on the calendar or addressing things like Black Lives Matter Week at school. So I know we're getting into that. But the reason why I brought that up is to tie into here. Mr. Alonzo made a great point today. But the problem is that one point does not absolve all of the wrongdoings beforehand. All right? And that's why I said it pained me a little bit to get up here and to say, you know, this is a good point. But the problem is when you've said the things you've said in the past, and do bring up those things like ethics, like Reverend Patterson brought up, there's a major conflict there. So I'm going to bring it back a little bit. A few weeks ago when I spoke at the special board meeting, I made a mistake. When I got up, I used the word re-educate, right? I'm a teacher of Holocaust and human behavior and of other genocides. And after I left the meeting, I thought to myself, wow, that was a really poor choice of wording. I should have not used the word re-educate, because when you look back at the dictatorships and the absolute leaders in history, they have re-educated their populations and destroyed them. So I apologize for that. But unfortunately, Mr. Alonso does not learn from his mistakes. Mr. Dominic here talked about Mr. Alonso posting on Facebook asking then Governor Chris Christie to get rid of or to vote against A 3371. This was a bill that was in support of conversion therapy. I don't know if anybody understands what that means, conversion therapy. Conversion therapy means that you take a person who identifies in the LGBTQ plus community and you try to reorganize their brain to make them, quote unquote, not gay anymore. I have had too many students in the past, and I'm pretty sure I will have those in the future, who know what they are and where they identify. So that's an issue. Mr. Dominic brought up the piece about African Americans arguing over slavery and Confederate memorials. I'm going to go back to the history teacher in me in this. Okay? So the Democrats of the 1860s, and I have to actually kind of change that a little bit, because those Confederate memorials didn't come into existence until much later down the line to rub it in the face of African Americans, especially in the South. Okay? You go to Christopher Columbus. This is a whole other thing. That's a sham in and of itself, that statue and that history of that being taught, because that was being mass-produced as a way to change some of the issues that were going on in our country at that time. So it was not to honor him for his great achievements. But anyway, I'll go back to the Democrats of the 1860s. Those are not the Democrats of today. A few years ago, a student came up to me and said, so you're that liberal teacher. Do you know your people, the Democrats, she said, are the ones who blah, 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 blah. And I thought to myself, I didn't want to argue with the kids. I just kind of let it go. But the Democrats switched by the time of FDR. The Democrats of the old were not the Democrats by 1932. They flipped. The Republicans of the day of Lincoln's party would be the Democrats of today. So those Democrats flipped. And you can see how that evolved. So the Democrats who supported the Confederate memorials are not the Democrats of today. So there's no link there. I then will go to this. I had to jot down some other notes. I saw the two videos you posted. And for me, they were comical. And I know we can't have a back and forth here, but they were comical to me because you said, and I quote, teachers were afraid before me. They were afraid to speak up. Were some teachers afraid? Yeah, because there was retribution in the district. I don't think those things will happen anymore. I'm pretty sure of that. But people didn't start speaking up because you were elected. They didn't. I know I didn't start speaking up until, when you were elected. The first time I ever spoke up is actually at a board meeting for Mrs. Finnerty. Because one of our previous board members said that, and this is the first time I ever spoke at a board meeting, he said that you stopped learning after 10 years on the job anyway, and we don't need to pay those teachers who are here. And that struck a chord with me because I had teachers like Mr. McKenna, Mrs. Finnerty, When I came to this district, Barry Glover was my, he wasn't my mentor officially on paper, but we were together in the hallways, taking care of business when we had to, and just as a friend to have an ear, right? And we were pretty close. So for teachers being afraid or getting bolstered now by your election, I don't think so. A friend of education, I don't see that either, because you've proposed that we go to zero tax levies. If that's a support of teachers, that's pretty bad, because if we go to a 0% tax levy, that means that you can't hire staff. That means you'll have to let go staff, which happened. All of your actions have shown us otherwise, that you're in support of the teachers. Because although we have only 19 African-American teachers in the district, we do have other people of color here as well. And we have members of the LGBTQ plus community who don't identify for a variety of reasons. But how do you think that makes them feel that a board member feels that way about people? Who would come to this district and work if they know a board member wouldn't be willing to think about? And I know you don't hire, but why would you want to come to a district where people feel that way about you? I've been actively trying to recruit Clarice. She's a former student of mine. I won't stop till she comes here. But I'm going to keep going, right? And I'm going to keep working with Mr. Kopaz on our committee and Mr. Munoz on that. And we'll get Clarice here. All right? So I got one more to put out there, and I've been debating whether or not to say it, but you know what? I got up here a bunch of times today anyway, so the angelic troublemaker is here. Not so much angelic in face. But rumor has it, and I'll end it with this. Rumor has it, when we went to remote learning, Mr. Alonso proposed that teachers not be paid.
Motion?
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 Mr. Broderick has a comment?
Yes.
Hi, I'd like to just say a few things, only because I was mentioned a few times here. And first, I'd like to start out by saying that when Mr. Alonso got on the board, he made more accusations against me than any other board member, including that I was corrupt, that I should testify in front of a committee down in Trenton to see where all the money is, and several other things. That being said, as the president at the time, my job was to work with everybody. As we learned at the last meeting, if you don't want to have somebody on the board, there's two ways to do it. You can either write an ethics violation, and then the state will take care of that. We're not allowed to do that. The Commissioner of Education made that quite clear. Or there's an election in November. You vote, which is probably would be quicker than what would ever happen with a violation, an ethics violation. The other thing is, I don't know if anyone else on this board can say that they raised a black child, but I can. So to think that I would have anything to do against not pushing, I mean, I've raised a girl who's 24 years old right now since she was 4 months yet. 4 months, and some of them know that. And as far as Mrs. Roberts goes, well, Devonna, I remember my daughter, that was her best teacher. Amy was, Greg coached with me at Vroom School. Did you go to Vroom School? Yes. Okay, there you go. So, and I just saw her at Abe King's Wake just a couple of months ago, and she looks just as terrific as she did 30 years ago. So I just, but there's things we need to do. Whether you like somebody or don't like somebody, you have to work with them. That's what we're here for, and we're here to discuss. And now I see some people say, well, you're fighting each other, you're fighting each other. Well, maybe that's a healthy thing in some ways. I mean, do you want 9 people coming out here and saying, yes, yes, yes? You know, there should be discussion. And whether I'm on the right side of it or the wrong side of it, there should always be discussion. I like the fact that people like Mr. Woods come, ask questions. Now, he evidently isn't a fan of Mr. Alonso, but he was certainly willing to agree with him. And I thought that was pretty impressive at that moment. So these are just some of the things that I think have to come up. And I know we like to get on a little bit of a bandwagon in what we think is right or wrong. And I certainly agree with everybody that's here about that there's certainly a lot of good needs to be done, put it that way. So I just wanted to reassure Reverend Patterson that all the applications you gave me, I guarantee went to somebody, whether it was the superintendent or Mr. Kopaz, because I would look to push them as much as I could push anyone else. Like Mr. Egan said, that we don't hire people, we just vote on. In fact, when it comes to us, we just see the name. We don't see were the 4 other names that were there. So sometimes that's a very difficult thing. But just in general, I just thought I needed to respond because, like I said, my name was brought up a couple of times, and so I just thought I'd say hello to everybody. So, thank you.
I just want to reiterate, like, Trustee Broderick, I always want to reiterate, I did not imply or mean to imply that anything that Mr. Alonso has done previously is at any fault or wrongdoing of Trustee Broderick. I am not suggesting that at all. What I'm suggesting is when we did make complaints and comments about previous actions, whether it be writing letters to the newspaper with misleading comments or comments about if I could do it, I would abolish the school system in Bayonne in favor of homeschooling to save the taxpayers' money. When he made comments such as that, we had brought it up to the proper channels and nothing was ever done about it. Now, I got to say, Trustee Broderick is a good guy. He's a decent guy. He's a God-fearing man. He's a family man. In no way should he be blamed for this guy. Okay? I just wanted to let you know that. I mean, because I feel bad when you kind of defend yourself a little bit. That wasn't the intention. I'm just saying, Reverend Patterson, we did bring it up to people, and nothing was ever done. Whether that decision was collectively amongst the former superintendent and legal and the board president, I don't know. But the complaints were made and lodged, just so you know. But I don't want him to be the scapegoat, because that's not true. Okay? Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Vice President Munoz to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by President Bellato. On that motion and second, Trustee Alonso?
Yes.
Trustee Broderick?
Yes.
Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Trustee Cassius? Trustee Egan? Trustee Finnerty? Yes. Trustee Wilbeck? Vice President Munoz? President Bellato? It is 7:41. The board will not return.